So this is March 29th, 2021, and we have just been notified that the CDC has extended the eviction moratorium until the end of June this year. Now, I would be more shocked if you're shocked about this than I'm actually shocked that it happened. I think we all should have seen this coming. So we'll get into some facts first, then we can forecast what we think is going to happen. First, let me give you the disclosures that I am not an attorney. I am not paid to be an attorney. I work only in the state of Tennessee, and I can only tell you my thoughts and theories on this after having read through the update. But you will need to seek legal counsel in your own state to get clarification or to have any of these things confirmed. So this is an extension of the CDC moratorium that came out in September of 2020. This again is going to be the same one with some clarifications and exceptions and some, some additions. So the first being that, again, this is still rental involved, but with rent, but now they're also clarifying that this has to do with fees. Now, again, this is just my theory on this, but I think that what has happened is they have started to see people trying to find loopholes go around this, and now it's causing more clarification, which is always the case. So some of this should be common sense, some of it maybe not so much. I will tell you that there's very little that's been done to alleviate any of the pains of the landlord in this. So the first thing is, this was the extension of the one from 9/4, so it still is only involving rent, but they've gone in to clarify that that also means any fees. So anything basically, in my interpretation, that would show up on a tenant ledger. So you can't say, well, I'm just evicting them for late fees now, or I'm just evicting them for their pet fee now, or any of those things. It seems to be rent or anything that's associated with that housing as far as fees, late fees, charges. Now they've also clarified that you cannot evict the tenant for trespassing. So one of the key loopholes to this that people have used, and it really isn't a loophole if it's legit, but one of the things that people have tried to do is do evictions based on criminal activity, which is fine. You can still do that. You can still evict for basically anything you could before, with the exception of rent and rent-related fees. However, some not so clever human beings apparently tried to say that the tenant still being in the property was now trespassing because they hadn't paid the rent, and so they weren't getting them for rent, but they were trying to get them for trespassing. They're still a tenant. If they haven't been evicted, they still live there, so I don't see how trespassing would have ever flown in this situation, but you can evict them for that. So they're not technically trespassing on their own property just because they haven't paid you rent. So you can't do that. But otherwise, criminal activity is still an evictable charge. COVID is not a safety violation. Apparently someone else also tried to say, okay, well, we have this health and safety clause, and because they have COVID, they're putting other people and future tenants at risk. You can't do that either. So unless they're outside, like running next door and sneezing purposefully on their neighbor, I can't see where you could get away with this. It says not to do it. It is actually put into this update. Now, the one thing in the landlord favor is they did mention elements listed. So previously there was a form, tenant had to fill out the form, could give it to the landlord, the attorney, whomever, but they didn't really have to list anything far as that goes. Now they have to list all these things, which there may, I don't know here. They really should have clarified this further. I still don't see where this means we can actually ask for anything until it goes to court. So it says elements listed. Now what it did say is it no longer has to be the CDC form. So if your tenant just writes up something, as long as it has the listed elements, as long as it has the required info, it's signed, and they put a perjury statement in there, It doesn't have to be that form. So if you get some handwritten thing from your tenant, if it includes all those things, you have to take it. So my advice to you would be immediately give that to your legal counsel. Far as I can tell, still can't ask too many questions until court. It actually says you can still clarify these things in court. So also, it can be translated. My reading of this is if someone hands you this documentation, whether it's the form or it's something handwritten, if it's in another language, it looks like it has now become the landlord's issue to figure this out, but people can submit it any way they need to. And then again, I would just pass it to legal counsel. So there are some clarifications, mostly in the tenant's favor of what you can't do. I don't see how this is going to affect any other outside evictions. A lot of our clients are already messaging us going, but, we have a court date. We were already through the process. We were this, that, or the other. Here's what it says. If the eviction was completely finished, completely finalized before 9/4 of 2020, no one can go back and renegotiate that. It's done. Unfortunately, my reading of this is if any portion of the eviction was initiated but not finalized since that date, they're delayed. That's just the way it is. Now, again, this is for rent related evictions and fees. So if you had a criminal case that was going on, or a non-renewal case, or any other case, those should still be fine. The only question is how the court is going to handle that. Are they going to go ahead and honor the court dates they already have? Are they going to start pushing these back and prioritizing these in some way? Are the state Supreme Court's going to step in and shut them all back down? We don't know. We don't have an answer to that. But right now, until you hear from your attorneys or you hear from your city, I would say that anything that's not rent or fee related should move forward. Again, if you already have a court date. Now, if you don't have a court date, good luck getting one, but that's the way it reads for now. Now, as far as forecasting this or anything, I have said for months now that I never expected this to end in 2021. I honestly, and again, this is just, we're moving into my personal theories, having read and followed this since it started. What I really feel like is happening here is that we're going to get 1 more to 2 more extensions. I wouldn't be surprised if they do them in small increments like they did last year. So this is over a year now. The first, which was the CARES Act, not the moratorium, started March last year. So we have had eviction halts all the way since March of last year. We're at over a year. We've had the CDC orders in place since September of last year. But here's what I think. I think that they've already set the precedent now and that they're going to keep extending this. I think that they didn't get things together quickly enough. They don't have a solution with how to deal with this. So at first it was extended because they didn't know how to handle the mass amount of evictions going on. Now the problem is they've pushed the evictions until all these tenants are now looking at being a year behind. Now we're moving into 18 months. If they do end of the year, it'll be almost 2 full years of eviction halts. So I think, and this again, this is not anything that's in writing at this point, but I'm going to go on record right now and say that I feel strongly that we're going to see another extension till September and then another one till the end of the year. And what they're going to do at this point is try to save face by figuring out a way to waive the tenant debt, because they have to know there's absolutely no way that all of these people are going to repay these amounts. I mean, we're looking at some people, again, that could be up to 2 years behind by the time this is all said and done. So they've got to figure out some way to mitigate that. And I think what they're going to do is play the long game and try to exhaust the landlords. And what I mean by that is we've got people in pain right now, people that have not been able to pay their mortgages, people that are running up credit cards and debt trying to save their livelihood and their property. So I think the theory is then going to become, we ease them into this a little bit at a time, And then when we come out with something like, hey, we'll give you some relief, we'll start the evictions back up, you can get this amount in back rent. However, we're going to need you to waive X amount of dollars. And I think their thought process on this is going to be people are going to be more than happy to do it because the pain button has been pushed so long and so hard that they're going to be like, whatever, at this point, I just want these people out of the house. I just want some of my money back. I think they're gravely mistaken, though, because I haven't talked to a single landlord that's going to go for that. They are so angry and so upset that most of the ones that are in it for the long haul at this point are like, what difference is it going to make? At this point, I want my money back. I want my property rights back. But I do see this moving forward. What can you do? Who knows? Definitely have an attorney. Stay in close communication with them. My thoughts on this all are get on the dockets as soon as you possibly can, and then if you want to work out some kind of cash for keys or some kind of agreement, then try. But the thing is, if someone goes back on that and they don't want to do it, then you don't have an eviction filed. So while the courts are probably still months out with new cases and court dates, I still think your best line of defense on this is to get a court date, get on the docket, and if it keeps moving to a rate you're uncomfortable with, try to work out something in the interim. Make sure you talk to your attorney so that you're not waiving any of your rights or canceling your own dates. But at the same time, if you're going to do something creative, still get on the dockets. So that's all I have for now. I wouldn't expect this to go away anytime soon. And I am so sorry to those of you that are having to deal with this. Property owners have been failed in every possible way on this. Please be patient with your property managers and real estate agents. Those of you that have them, you should know. I don't know any of us that aren't in support and backing you on this, that don't feel horrible that it's happened. To all the tenants out there, you don't know that anyone's ever going to waive this debt. Even if there is some sort of compromise that the government seeks to get, odds are your landlord, if you push this far, is going to be furious. They could say no. So, you know, right now, all of this debt's collectible. So it doesn't matter how long it's been, how much money it is, how many fees are tacked on. As of right now, when this is over, you're going to owe every bit of this debt. And for some of you, this is going to be a crazy amount of money. So my thoughts are, for those of you that are really going through something, look for alternate solutions besides dragging this out any further than you have to. A month or two should be the longest anyone does this. Reach out to your landlord, be honest with them, tell them what's going on. See if they're willing to waive some fees. If you can find a place and move, ask them if they have a realtor in the office that can help you find another place, either through some of their friends, their networking, other agencies, other properties or owners. Just be honest with them what your situation is, and maybe they can help you find a better way out of this, because at the end of the day, while this seems like a good way to, we can stay there, you're going to get hurt the most out of this. Unless a landlord gets foreclosed on, they're going to probably get hurt the most. But next to that, once that foreclosure happens, the bank is going to put the tenant out anyway. If you're in debt with this, it's going to go on credit. That's going to get looked at in the future in a negative way. There's going to be a balance. There are going to be lawsuits. No one wants all that. So while I'm not saying at all that help shouldn't be sought for people that really need it, there are better ways than to just run out this moratorium, I promise. So talk to them, look up resources. There are so many resources in all the cities across America if you're behind on rent. Sometimes your landlords will have a list of those. So just reach out, try to negotiate, try to work it out, try to find a place that's more affordable. But I would not want this amount of debt and damage to my credit when this was all said and done. So that's my thoughts on it. That's the update. If you have any questions, you're welcome to drop them into the chat on this or message us. Till next time, good luck, everybody. And I'm so sorry.